YouTube.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another photo mishmash. This one being broadcast live September 4th, 2019, Africa versus Alaska. Those two things are equal, aren't they? I am joined by my good friend and today's co-host, David Carr. David, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you, Toby?
I'm doing really, really well. And I want to welcome our wonderful and dedicated viewers that are joining us live. Thank you. A little word of just kind of a heads up. We're trying a completely new system. As of August 1st, I think it was August 1st, YouTube changed the way live streaming works on the back end, including getting rid of kind of the whole Hangout system, which is what I used to use, that made it really easy to do this kind of casual pipe in somebody else from somewhere else in the world. David, you're in Atlanta, Georgia. It looks like a lovely day out there right now.
Definitely somewhere else in the world. It's about 100 degrees. Well, 96 was the high today. But yeah.
Here in Seattle, we were complaining yesterday when it was 81. So anyway, that aside, I'm using this new system. It's called StreamYard. And as you can see, there's some differences. Right now, David and I are sitting next to each other despite thousands of miles apart. And I have not used this before in a live broadcast situation. So bear with us if I'm a little bit slower to switch some things around, but it does offer some neat features that I'm excited about, including things like I can throw your comments up on the screen.
That's amazing.
Pretty cool. I can also jump in here and say, you know what? I don't pay David Carr anything to do this show. He does it out of the kindness of his heart. And you should go follow him on Instagram. There's his Instagram handle.
Thank you.
Right there. And it's also linked down below along with David's YouTube channel. And I didn't put the channel link as a little lower third, but it is actually linked down below this video. You can go click on that to follow David and his adventures, which we're going to hear a lot more about. David, you just returned from an epic trip.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And what else? I think we'll take that back off now. And what else could I do? I can also put on something like this. Oh, but now I've got a little bit too much going on. So I have to go back here. There we go. I'm calling this the infrequent news show because honestly, I mean, I love doing this show, but it's been a little tough with travel over the last couple of weeks. And looking ahead, there is a good bit more travel. So I'm not exactly sure when the show will happen again. I don't love saying that up front, but it is going to be a couple of weeks before I'm able to sit back down at this desk and get a good co-host along with me to chat about the week's news. But don't worry. Don't get sad. Right now, right here, we're here, and we're going to chat with you all.
We're here, yeah.
Whatever you like to chat about.
Yeah, I mean, it's like any good TV show. You know, you have to like put it out in a season and then go away for a little bit so people will demand it again. So we're going away for a couple weeks.
Yeah. So just like Game of Thrones, right?
Exactly. I mean, exactly like Game of Thrones.
Yeah. And to complicate matters further, I can see your chats here, but I like to also see them here in nice big format. I'm using this new laptop Acer sent along to me. As you know, I'm in this kind of quest to find a lighter, more travel-friendly laptop. It arrived today, so I'm not really ready to talk about it other than I'll say it's got a 4K gorgeous screen that I love, and it is incredibly light for its size.
That's amazing.
Those are the good things. We should at some point talk about the fact that it's running Windows, and I'm pretty much a Mac guy.
Yeah, but that's where you would get me. I just don't even know how to turn on a Windows computer.
Well, the power button does look very similar. I could figure that out, but then there's a lot of other stuff that, I'm not sure about. So stay tuned for more about this. Also on the desk, kind of as a teaser, this is the Sony a6400. Yes, this camera's been out for a while, but I have this right now because I was recently in New York City and comparing it to the brand new a6600 and a6100, two new APS-C cameras announced from Sony. I was at the launch event, had my hands on those cameras for 3 some odd days. It was a very fun event. Those events are fun no matter what gear is announced because you just get to hang out with other YouTubers, and I love that. It's a lot of fun. Cool. So I'll be sharing more about those in a dedicated video soon. But as Roy has said in the chat, who's nicely in here and put together the show notes for us, if you have questions about this stuff or anything else that David and I are talking about during the show or anything photo related, you can put a little Q in front of it, stick it in the chat. He'll be collecting those and we'll be getting to answer them towards the end of the show.
Definitely.
Also just arrived. Sorry, David, you were going to say?
Well, I'm not able to type in comments here. I don't know if I have to sign up or log in or something, but that's okay. I'll just say hi to people from the microphone.
Okay. You could, you can jump into on the YouTube side of things if you wanted to have another window open.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll do that.
That is a little hiccupy, and I wonder if there's, I only have the ability to remove you from the stream right here, so I don't want to click that at the moment.
No, that's okay. So I'll figure it out.
Okay. Gareth suggests that I could always install a distribution of Linux on this machine. But then I have to run. I still love my Lightroom. And so, I know there are some decent Lightroom alternatives, but I don't want to go there. Not right now. But thanks for that suggestion, Gareth.
Understandable.
Yeah. I'm going to start to tease this too. This was sent along to me recently. This is the MyCharge Power Lumens. This is kind of neat. I'm always looking to travel a little bit lighter. This is a USB charging brick. I always carry one of these with me, but it also happens to be a pretty nice LED panel. And it has 3 different colors, basically a warm, a cool, and then a mix of the warm and the cool together. And it has a bunch of different brightness amounts, and it can even flash SOS. It can charge 2 devices at the same time, and it's a 10,000 milliamp battery all together. And I don't know how to turn it off. There it goes. And it's got a little stand. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I mean, we were doing some photos the other day out on this boat on a lake. I was with my family and with another family, and it was sunset and it was beautiful. And everybody was like, "Oh, let's take pictures with the sunset behind us." I'm like, "Yeah, you're all going to be really dark." So we all got our phones out with our, lights, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing." I'm like, "Yeah, that's because you have to have light to see things." And but something like that would be amazing to have.
Yeah. I really, I'm more and more for photography. It doesn't work in all situations, but I really like a little constant light as opposed to a flash. I think in a lot of simple situations, like you guys were using the light, the phones. That's an awesome idea.
That's all you need. Yeah,
it's cool. So that's good. And as I said, you ask questions about all of that stuff. And I just want to tell you that this show is brought to you by, members like you. Most of you watching are part of our Photo Enthusiast Network. Thank you so much for your membership. We have some exciting developments in the works. We're very likely going to be moving platforms soon, and it's going to provide a whole host of additional features. If you're not a Photo Enthusiast Network member and you have no idea what I'm talking about, it is a fantastic photography educational site. I honestly think one of the best on the internet, one of the best values out there. Hundreds of hours of video covering everything from Lightroom editing and the basics, like what is the catalog? Where should your catalog be in Lightroom? To the basics of flash photography, to tips on wildlife photography and landscape photography and architecture. All of that stuff. It's all packed in there, both in video content and written articles, new content added every single week. And it's a fantastic resource, plus access to, and this is what honestly truly makes it one of the best places on the internet, the community. Those of you watching, those of you who are active in the community, you are fantastic, helpful people, and I really appreciate you. And we love to see people post, hey, I'm struggling, like Becky today. She wants some suggestions for a title, for a picture that she's working on. She's going to get some fantastic suggestions. Other people just say, hey, did I edit this a little bit too much? Or how does this look color versus black and white? Many times you are editing in the confines of your home office. You've got nobody around. Maybe you've got a spouse or significant other. And honestly, they're often very positive about your work, aren't they? I hope that's kind of the kind of partner you have. We don't want to get into that kind of counseling, but they're probably like, that looks great, honey. That's awesome. And that's really nice, but you should have some folks that have a little bit more photography background and interest to give it a little bit more of a critical eye and to give you some things to think about that are really going to make your work a little bit better.
Definitely. So, it's funny you mentioned that. If I can just chime in, I sent a gallery of photos to a client recently I had worked pretty hard on these photos. It was like a bunch of family, like extended family shots. And I worked really hard on them for a long time. And it was too late at night, I guess, because I sent them and I didn't hear anything back for a long time. And I was like, uh-oh, like, what does that mean? And turns out he was just super busy. But I went and looked at them again yesterday, and they were atrocious. Like the edit, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know if it was like my calibration was off on the monitor. I don't know if it was just really late at night. But I could not believe that I'd sent this gallery out, and I'm just owning that as a mistake I made. But if I had just bounced those photos off of somebody else who kind of had an eye for it, it probably would have saved me that headache of like sending this and then realizing, oh gosh, they don't look good at all. So, and they're very recoverable. I've already got them fixed, but it was just like, what was I thinking? So yeah, it's good to have people in your community to help you see what you're doing.
Yep. That's awesome. And, for no other reason than, it is other monitors and other color calibrations that people have their set at. And somebody could be like, whoa, this looks really green. And then other people can be like, well, that's just your monitor. Or, oh, yeah, it's looking green to multiple people. And it's just really nice to have that feedback. And your guys are nice. You're people on the internet that are actually nice. I know that's kind of a weird concept, but nobody has told anybody else in the group, as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, that, oh, you're an idiot for posting that, or why did you choose that camera system? That's the stupidest camera system. No, none of that's helpful. None of that's helpful. We don't do that.
Even if you're thinking it, you're not saying it, and that's what's so important.
That's right. That's right. So we are going to talk a little bit about the week in review. This is kind of where this really actually needs to be about a month in review, because the last time the show happened was maybe it was 3 weeks ago or so. So the last 3 weeks in review, a couple of things, and we'll talk about them in a little bit more detail later in the show, I think. But really, I'm going to kind of wait to see your questions if you want to hear more about these. The Canon 90D was announced. My title is your kind of DSLR capable with some pro level features thrown in. It's nice what Canon has done here. And there is some rumors that maybe we'll never see a 7D Mark III. And that's why we've seen some of the features from that 7D series kind of dribble down into the 90D, giving you a pretty impressive camera that they've kept at that same nice price. I already mentioned that Sony announced the a6100. I have an article up about that with some of my early thoughts, along with the a6600 and two new lenses, the 16-55 f2.8 and the 70-350, which out of all of the gear announced, if I had to pick a favorite piece, that 70-350 is a fantastic walk around wildlife lens. It's so light. It is so sharp. I've got sample photos from it both on my Instagram and on my Facebook and at photorec.tv, so you can go find those.
Wow, that's an impressive focal range there, 70-350.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. And it's it's small, compact, and lightweight because it is APS-C only. That's what it's sent for. And that gives you, I think, doing the math, 105 to like 520. I think.
Yeah, that's about what that would be, I think.
Yeah, which 520. We're going to look at some of your fantastic, not to spoil it, but you returned recently from the Tanzania safari with McKay Photography Academy. And I'm really interested. I know you were headed there with that 300 PF. Is that?
Yeah, the Phase Fresnel. I think
Phase Fresnel for Nikon.
Yes.
And so we'll tease that. What I love about having David on this show is he's got the Nikon perspective. And David, we're waiting with bated breath for you to give us the full detail rundown of the new D6 that was announced too.
Well, you know what? I've been busy all day working a video thing I was doing, and I have barely seen the information on it. All I saw was that they were announcing that they were developing one. So is there actual information on it now? Okay. No, that's all I've seen, which is exciting. But the most advanced DSLR ever, it better be. I mean, they're not going to say this is our second most advanced. But no, I mean, I think they are looking at some pretty interesting changes. Obviously, the mirrorless thing is taking over like rapidly. And, Nikon, I think they have to come out with at least another DSLR flagship. But this is probably going to be the last one, I would think. I don't know. But the D5 lasted 3 years, and so... But, they're talking about in-body image stabilization, which to me would make tremendous sense if you want to start bridging that gap between DSLRs and mirrorless. And I mean, I'm sure there'll be some other pretty big improvements, but it's a lot to improve on. That D5 was pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Yeah. And remind me the megapixels of the D5, the amount.
Well, it was only it's only 20 point something. It's like 21 total, you know.
Yeah.
So
But I
not
mean,
a yeah.
Yeah, but that, you know, it is a speed demon. So you're sacrificing some megapixels versus some kind of the higher end landscape focused cameras for a camera that can just churn through frames per second.
Absolutely. And I shot a lot of landscape with it and everything, and it all turned out great. I mean, I think you can split hairs at, you know, dynamic range, and I see people who talk about it as though it's like it sucks in the dynamic range. I'm like, it doesn't suck. None of it sucks. It's just one's a little better than the other. And the D850 is phenomenal for that. I mean, love that camera. Sucks. But I don't know if I'm allowed to say sucks, but I do.
You can. Okay.
Okay.
It's just we try to avoid like the really bad words.
The big one, yeah.
Yeah. Just
I'm not going to go there.
I've never had a monetization problem, but we don't
no, it's good. Okay, yeah, I'll keep it clean. Yeah. But you know, I think the D5, yeah, I mean, I was just always so impressed with the files that I got off it. I mean, they just had so much to offer and the low light capability. So as an all around like workhorse, it was, I say was, you know why? Because I sold mine 2 days ago.
You did?
Yes, I did. I sold my D5. I loved it. I hated to let it go, but it still had some value in it, and I wasn't using it a lot. And I was like, well, the D6 is coming out, and who knows what else is coming out. I just thought it might be a good time to part ways. So
yeah, interesting. Okay, so let's stay on this topic for a second.
Sure.
I'm interested. So did you went to Tanzania, Africa? We'll show your pictures in just a minute.
Sure.
What did you find yourself primarily shooting with, camera and lens both?
Okay, well, I did not bring the D5 on that trip because of the weight, and also I kind of had thought I might sell it, so I didn't want to bring it and get it all dirty and all that stuff, which was smart because everything got filthy, as you know, in Tanzania. I brought my D850 and I brought my Z6, and on the Z6 I used my 24-70 2.8, the Z mount version. I used that quite a bit for just like the wider stuff, obviously. But I was using that 300 more than anything, 300 millimeter f4. And here's where I got a little, I learned a big lesson was I was trying to use a teleconverter, a 1.7 teleconverter with the 300 millimeter, which takes it up to 500, which is great reach in the Serengeti. But so many of those shots were just fuzzy on the edges. They just weren't sharp. And it was really frustrating. You know, there were shots that I just couldn't use. There was no point in using them. So I kept kind of trying to go back to 300, but a lot of times that wasn't quite enough reach. So I don't know. You live and learn. I mean, I've used the 300 on other shoots, well, on other trips, like, you know, Yellowstone when we went there back in the winter. I used the 300 there, and it was great. And we were close enough to most of the animals to get what I wanted, but. So yeah, the D850 performed beautifully as it always does for, you know, those kind of epic shots. But I actually shot a lot of video on the Z6 with the 300 millimeter. I just kept finding myself in moments where I was like, I really want to see movement. I want to capture the movement here. And some of the footage turned out really cool. I haven't compiled it yet, but I'm excited to see that. And, I mean, I probably shot half video and half photo.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to you. Are you going to do anything with the video?
Yeah, I'm going to piece together everything that works and just kind of see how it looks. And maybe I'll do a little story with it or something. You know, I captured enough to create something out of it. But, you know, Kaz, your friend Kaz was out there too. And obviously he's like a video guru. So it was kind of redundant, but I was like, yeah, Kaz, I'm just doing this for my own practice and just like to see what I can capture. But, you know, obviously he got some amazing footage as well. So, you know, who knows, maybe we can put it all together or something. But
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was cool to do. And I am super happy with, it's amazing when I would just shoot with that 300 millimeter lens and not the teleconverter. They were phenomenal. The quality was amazing on those.
Yeah.
So just good.
You said fuzzy around the edges. So was it really just the edges with the teleconverter on, or was there some focusing or softer images overall?
Yeah, it mainly seemed like the edges. I mean, if I was zoomed in on a lion, for instance, you know, when you try to crop, because even at 500, I still found myself having to crop to get a shot of just the lion's head or whatever. And it just gets it's just not great. It's just not great. I mean, I've used the teleconverter at times when it works pretty well. I mean, I was surprised, but I think when you're dealing with somewhat lower light, or if something is in the shadow, that's where it really struggles to. Now that shot was straight 300, right out of the back of the Land Rover.
Nice. Yeah, I feel let's just stick with this subject. I love this talk, and let's take a few moments to share a couple of your pictures, and you could talk a little bit about maybe what, if you remember for each of them, what you captured it with, or if there's anything else to say. So this is D850 with the 300.
Yeah, I believe that was the D850. I ended up, because the 300 millimeter lens was on my Z6 a lot, I ended up like just shooting with that when I needed to. But when I was really trying to get like the epic shot, I would try to switch to the D850. Now here's what's interesting. This shot is actually a JPEG that was shot during doing some video. I didn't even realize, I might have inadvertently hit the shutter button or what, but I was going through my photos, and this was almost black. It was so dark. And I was like, well, I can barely see a line there. And I just was like, I'm just going to brighten it up. And it turned out like that. I switched it to black and white. The color wasn't phenomenal because of the raw and the JPEG and the really low exposure. But I was like, it's amazing what you can still recover, even in a JPEG. I mean, and we were kind of using this on the trip as an example of like, don't think it's a throwaway just because it's dark. I mean, try to get good exposure always, but like, just don't freak out if you didn't nail it, Yeah,
it's a great point. What you can recover this day from RAWs and even JPEGs.
I know, I was surprised.
It's impressive. And even, the fact that this is out of a video clip, that's awesome. Really cool. It's a gorgeous shot.
Thank you.
The detail and the focus and the lion.
Thank you. Great. I'm finding what I have to do, and I think this is good advice for anybody, is that you have to take what you have there, and if it is sharp, then, and if it's sharp and it's somewhat interesting, you have something to work with, I think. So then from there, you kind of figure out like, okay, does it work in color? Does it work better in black and white? Should I add some texture? Should I brighten this area? Should I just start working what you have to make the best out of it that it can be? Instead of feeling like, well, I didn't get it exactly the way I wanted in camera, because that's just not always going to be the case, especially when you're, riding around in the back of a Land Rover through the Serengeti. You just take what you can get sometimes. And, Julie Hunter says, happy accidents. Very true. That was definitely a happy accident.
Very cool. All right. Another lion shot?
Yeah, I have not shared this one yet. I forgot this was in my arsenal. Now, I will tell you, this is one that was shot with the 500 or the 300 millimeter with the teleconverter. And looking at it small like this, it looks fine. I love the moment. I love his expression. I really haven't edited much of it. I just sort of did some color stuff with it and probably upped the texture a little and sharpened it. But yeah, this is one where if I was really trying to blow it up big, it would start to get a little weird around the edges of his face and things like that. But still, I mean, I thought it was a worthy thing to keep because it's a cool moment.
It certainly is. He's gazing into your soul.
Yeah, this was such a cool spot. I mean, we saw these two male lions holding their ground. There was a herd of Cape buffalo that was like trying to cross this little ravine, and these two male lions were like, nope, not gonna happen. So it was just so cool to see their power and their stance and just who they are, they're just amazing.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that just blew me away when I've been on the Tanzania trips, and one is just getting to watch these animals just interact with other animals in their natural habitats. Just so cool.
Yeah.
The other thing that blows me away on the Tanzania trips is the people. And you captured some fantastic people shots through there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This is another one I haven't shared yet. I've been trying to not like overwhelm my feed with posts, but sometimes it's tempting to put them out there. But this is one we visited the Hadzabe tribe. I think that's the name. We visited this tribe the last day we were there in country, and they were very much okay with us photographing them. There were 20 photographers all around with their cameras, so I don't know how that feels to have that many people just when you're trying to just do life with your family, but we were there, and I just was with the 300mm lens, I was able to stand way back and just kind of like peek into these moments that were happening. And I don't know, this one like just stood out. There was light on this kid's face, and I don't know, it just kind of had a little moment to me. I liked it, so I thought I would include that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And that's another one for just taking probably moments before or after the previous one. And she was looking all around, but then finally, and I wasn't even trying to get her attention. She just finally saw me and looked, and I just, there's something about the eyes, you know?
Yep.
Something about the eyes.
Yeah.
Special.
Very nice. This one caught my eye as I was going through your pictures. I just love this shot. It's just one of the best zebra shots I've ever seen come out of any of the trips to Tanzania.
Man, thank you.
It's fantastic.
Thank you. There were, you know, as you know, there were so many zebras. I couldn't believe how many zebras we saw. We saw more zebras and wildebeest than we did anything else. And then, you know, it's funny how they travel together. I didn't realize that. They tend to travel together. But there was one day we were just driving through, and there was this huge herd of zebras, or zebra. I don't know what you say for plural, but whatever it was, we saw them. And there were all these little groupings that I thought, well, that's kind of a cool grouping there, and that's a cool grouping there. So this was one where it just kind of framed really well, and they were all moving in the same direction. And it looks like there's kind of like a baby zebra, and it kind of to the left there, middle left. And, you know, it just, but to me, like, it wasn't a moment that I saw and thought, oh, that's going to be an amazing photograph. I just, there's something about the simplicity of like these animals that all look the same, this very kind of like muted sky, and just this basic grass it's like three elements. And I love those kind of simplistic photos. And you know, and as one of the guys on our trip said, I think his name, Joe, said this. He said, you know, they're definitely the easiest animals to focus on. So.
Yeah, that's right. Very, very nice focusing targets, that black and white. I think they're my favorite animal in Tanzania. I just love just so wild looking with those very bold black and white stripes.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So the purpose of the August trip is not just, it is a pretty epic safari, but it's timed to capture the part of the Great Migration where you have tens of thousands of wildebeests crossing the Mara River. Looks like you captured that, David.
Yeah, thank you. You know what? This was so incredible. This was like one of the first things we saw when we were in the country. We were with our guides, and they said, hey, we're going to drive up to this river, and the wildebeest should cross at some point. And we're like, okay. I didn't even know what that meant, you know? I mean, I guess I'd seen it in The Lion King, and I'm sure I've seen it on some National Geographic shows or something. But then, you know, we're sitting there waiting, and nothing's happening. We're looking out in this field across the river, and there's just like barely any movement. And every now and then a couple of wildebeest would walk over here, and then they walk over there. But finally, we started to see some action. We saw like one of them just starts running towards the river, and then like another one, and it was that whole tribes thing. Like, I don't know if you've ever read that the book Tribes, but he talks about I think it's Seth Godin, but he talks about you know, sometimes one person's doing something kind of crazy and nobody's like, everybody thinks they're crazy. Then another person joins in, they're like, oh, okay, 2 people are doing it now, 3 or 4 people, and then all of a sudden it becomes a mob. And that's what happened. We just saw like it took a couple of the wildebeest to kind of get the thing going, and then all of a sudden it was like a stampede for like 30 minutes through this river of just thousands of wildebeest. Unbelievable. We were right there. The vantage point was just right there, and got to see just this scene. I mean, this is barely edited. There's nothing to edit. This is what was happening.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's an awesome experience. So it's just going to move on though a little bit. And Datoka tribe.
Yeah, this was actually, I'm drawing a blank as to the name of this tribe, because we visited them briefly the night before we visited the Datogas, but this was like a blacksmith tribe, and there were like 4 or 5 men that were just making bracelets and arrowheads and necklaces and all this stuff. And this guy was amazing. He just looked right at me as he was hammering out this thing, and I loved the look in his eyes, and it's just so fascinating.
Yeah, and that's a piece of metal between his toes he's hammering. This is all completely OSHA approved, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course.
But I just love that his sandals are there on either side of him. You know.
I know. He was wearing a hard hat when we got there, but we had him take it off just for the photos.
Right. Yeah, and their whole. Oh, let's move on to this picture. This is also an epic one.
Thank you. Yeah. Now this was the Hadzabe tribe again, and we actually got to go hunting with these guys. Like we didn't hunt, but we were, they were shooting bows and arrows and we were shooting photos, but we were following them around for a couple of hours through the bush, and they invited us on this hunt, and at first I'm like, oh yeah, we'll probably go out for 20 minutes and they'll shoot something and we'll come back. But we were out there like far from home, and it got a little freaky because somebody heard a lion and there's no telling what's out there.
Yeah.
And, but these guys, so we saw them hunt, we saw them kill a couple of birds and like make a fire in the woods with sticks and then cook the birds and eat the birds right in front of them. It was so primitive and crazy to watch this all going down. And then when we got back to their kind of their where they stayed, I guess their home, we did like a shooting competition. So all these men lined up with their bows and arrows and aimed at this bottle, and whoever would hit it would win an arrowhead. And so this is actually a shot of them doing that. But he had such an intensity in his eye that I just was like, I saw that and I was like immediately just all over it, just shooting like 50 shots of this, just trying to get that one moment.
Yeah.
This was it.
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Cheetah.
Yeah, this is the cheetah. Oh, and I meant to tell you, I sent you a lot of photos. You don't have to share all of them.
Okay. Yeah, we are. I'm just glancing over at time. We'll skip through a couple. It's hard though. It's hard.
No, I know. I wasn't sure. I was like, I'm just going to send these, and you can pick the ones you think are worth sharing. But yeah, this is a situation that was really difficult to capture. This cheetah. She was with her cubs at one point, and they were beautiful, but I could not get a shot. It was just dark and it was weird, and then she kind of wandered off and went up on this rock, and we kind of drove around, and I just saw her through these trees, and I was like, that's it, stop right there, and this is what I got, and I'm pretty happy with it.
Nice. Very nice. Let's see. We could talk about giraffes forever, but as you said, we're going to skip through.
That's fine. Yeah.
I really feel like you have a background. You're really focused there on Atlanta as a portrait photographer, and I feel like that's really come through in some of these shots here with just some fantastic portraits of people. Well, there's a fantastic portrait of a lion too, and a female. That lion was right near our vehicle, just walking alongside with us, and finally she kind of went into this field, and I saw her looking around. I thought, she's so beautiful. I just had to capture this one, and really, really love the way this one turned out. One of the common questions that I hear from folks after they see pictures from safari is, how close do you get to the animals? So to describe that in a little bit more detail, how close was she?
Well, I would say she was probably about, I don't know my yards very well, but she was probably 30 feet away or something. Not too far. And I had my 300 millimeter lens, my D850, and it just worked. But it was so crazy to we're in the vehicle, and she just walked literally right by the vehicle. We looked down out the window, and there she is. It was just breathtaking.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Pretty wild. So again, this is the Datoga tribe now.
That's right. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say you get to go into their places of dwelling. They're such friendly people. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it was so humbling to get to go into their home and actually see where they live, and they were so gracious to let us take these photos of them just doing their thing.
One of my favorite memories from an earlier trip was we had a gentleman on the trip, Deluxe, who has very, very hairy arms. And these women were fascinated with how hairy he was. They kept petting him. He loved it. He thought it was hysterical. They thought it was hysterical. Even he's got very hairy knuckles, just to share a little bit of his.
That's funny.
And they were even petting his knuckles and cracking up. It's so much fun.
Funny.
I love this really low light shot where you've captured just a glimpse of the eye and that great smile. So they're just very warm, friendly people.
Yeah, thank you. I love the dark quality of these. I did not want a lot of light. I shot really underexposed, and I just, there was something about that because that's how it felt in there, And but you see their beautiful smiles and just who they are, and it was just, that was a cool moment I did not expect to see.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna kind of speed through a couple.
Sure.
The lilac breasted roller.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's wild that birds this color exist. He looks like some kind of wacky patchwork.
I know, it was crazy. I was like, "What is that?" You know, and to see things in the Serengeti they're either so dangerous and like wild, or they're so gorgeous. Like the colors are just unbelievable.
Yeah. And also just take a moment and look at this acacia tree with, I mean, look at that thing. That's what those giraffes are eating with their tongues. And look at how ridiculously thorny it is. Just kind of crazy.
They would tear you up.
Speaking of tearing you up, leopard.
Yeah. Okay. This is a shot. I'm going to just say this is the 500 millimeters using that 300 millimeter lens with the teleconverter. Now, this is one, when you look at it small like this, it looks fine. I brightened her up. I sharpened her, or him, whatever it is. But it's not one I could really blow up big, unfortunately. And so I use it where I can, but I just, lesson learned.
Yeah.
Because this is already cropped heavily, so I could not crop it anymore and do any justice to it.
It's cool though. I love how she or he, I'm not sure which, is kind of just peeking up between the rocks. And again, you have that eye contact, which just really makes for such a much more compelling shot.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Very cool. All right, I'm gonna hit escape. You've got a couple more fantastic shots in there, but
thanks. No, it's for another time. Worries. Yeah, thanks for sharing those. I do want to say, like, we had somebody, Andrew, asked if I saw any alligators attack. I did see a crocodile eating a gazelle. That was kind of crazy. So
okay,
thought I would answer that.
Yeah, thanks. Real quick, I'm just going to share a couple of pictures from the Alaska trip. Are these coming through? We'll make sure the screen's still being shared.
Yes, I've been waiting to see these.
We had it was a very, very cool trip. I'm very excited to be going back. I wish I could say there were still spots available, but it has sold out now. It's a very small group. Oh, and I also just want to say that, these trips aren't cheap. David and I both recognize that, but they absolutely should be on your bucket list as an experience, as a photographic experience. I think if you've never done any big epic trip, Tanzania is the place to start. It's just such an amazing experience.
Incredible.
But this Alaska trip is happening again next year. It is sold out. The next Tanzania trip, I think we're talking March 2021, right?
That's correct. That's correct. Yes.
Yep. And if you are interested at all, send an email to David at, I don't know. I'll put the link down below. I don't know what address to use off the top of my head. Or do hello@mcklive.com.
Yeah, I believe that's the correct one, actually.
Yeah. hello@mcklive.com. Because they're going to be smaller trips in the future, and they're going to sell out very, very quickly. So let them know they're interested. And there's no kind of commitment to just saying, hey, I'm interested in being one of the first people to know. But that's also a Penn member benefit. So this trip was really cool because I'd never spent any time in Alaska in the summer. All of my trips have been winter, aurora, night photography focused. So we took float planes across the Shelikof Strait and flew into this little teeny, completely devoid of any human habitation harbor. Geographic harbor is what it's called, is where we started. And just literally float planed up to the boat and then hopped on our boat, and that's where we lived for the next week.
That's amazing. God.
And it was just awesome. If you haven't watched my little 2-minute long or maybe 3-minute long kind of video, I think it showcased the trip pretty nice in that short period of time. But I'll just show a couple more pictures of just the grizzlies. That you can call them grizzlies. You can also call them coastal brown bears. They were very close to us at times, and it was never really scary because they were focused on eating as many fish as they could. So getting to watch them walk around, splash in the water, play with each other,
that's incredible.
Really, really neat experience. And we were just standing out there. And at one point, towards the beginning of the trip, somebody asked our guide and captain, "Do you have a gun?" And he said, "No, I don't carry a gun." And
wow.
Some parts of our group were like, that's a little scary. But, it's just they've never really had an incident here because, again, the bears are interested in what they're interested in, and we're not bothering them. We're just kind of staying out of their way, taking pictures, and it just all works so well. So we got to see so many of them.
Gosh.
There was one that made eye contact and kept walking towards us in kind of a challenging way.
Oh my gosh.
And if you watch that video clip, that's shown in a little bit more detail. I was a little nervous.
That guy looks huge.
They were big. They were not
Gosh.
small bears.
Oh my! Look at this.
So yeah, so it was just so much fun to watch them do this and get these different shots, and and then also be silly. I don't think I have any of this kind of the silly pictures in this short selection here, but would sit in the water and hold their toes, sit in the water and munch the head off the salmon. And it was just so cool.
Oh,
and it
man.
wasn't just bears that we saw. We had orcas that swam literally under the bow of the ship.
Gosh.
2 kinds of puffins that you find on the West Coast. Cool, because I've never seen and lots of other seabirds. And then on top of all that, just kind of epic scenery that was just gorgeous and so much fun. So it was just a really cool,
incredible.
really cool experience.
I can't wait to do that trip.
Yeah. So yeah,
Man.
That's a little show and tell.
Back?
What's that?
When did you guys get back from that? That was like 2 weeks ago, or?
Yeah, about 2.5, maybe 3 weeks. So we did that trip, which was just over a week long total, from like getting there the night before and trip and then leaving. And then Steve Skirch and I joined Frank Stegos and did a road trip from his place in Fairbanks. He's the gentleman that runs Aurora Bear Photography in Fairbanks that we go see every winter. But we did a road trip from Fairbanks to the top of Alaska, which is as far north as you can drive in North America. And so that was a pretty cool experience as well. So
incredible.
That was fun. It was a good, that was August. That was a good August. I had a good time.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So Caleb also wants to know if the leopard had a name.
Oh yeah. We didn't have time to name the leopard. There are probably some bad jokes I could come up with, but I'm just not gonna. I can't do that on my, just on a whim. So.
Yeah.
All
right.
But hey, thank you guys I saw a lot of comments that were really, really kind, and thank you, Ty, for saying what you said about the zebra shot and the lion shot, and thank you, Heather, and everybody. That means a lot.
Yeah. And Heather, I love your comment. It looks like my preschooler picked out the colors. That's in reference to the lilac breasted roller. Yeah.
I know.
It's very, very true. It's like give some kid a blank drawing of a bird and have it color in. That's pretty much what
it'll look like. It's incredible.
All right, a couple bits. So let's dive back into gear news.
Sure.
We mentioned the D6. We don't know much more. Maybe we'll hear more when David Carr buys his.
Yeah. When I sell my car to get a camera.
Yeah. We have new EOS R and RP firmware updates coming with better, the real kind of focus of these firmware updates is better IAF tracking. That's what they need. That's what kind of, I think, in a lot of cases, dinged them in early reviews, was they have these features, they have this focusing system that for so long has been great when it's kind of combined in a DSLR, like you switch to live view and you got this really nice smooth cinematic focus, switch to non-live view through the viewfinder on the DSLR, and you've got that really fast, capable autofocus. And then when they went mirrorless, it didn't feel quite as fast as the competition when you look at something like Fuji or Sony. And especially that IAF just wasn't quite as good as it should be. And in fact, what I found was maybe the box was on the eye, or I should say the box wasn't quite on the eye. So the visual feedback of whether the eye was in focus or not was laggy, but it actually was doing a pretty decent job. But, overall, they were a little bit behind the competitors. I think that's fair to say. That's my opinion after testing them extensively. But this should bring it up a little bit more on par. And when you look at that price of the EOS RP, it certainly is nice. But what Canon needs to do is get out some reasonably priced lenses. They've got these kind of proof of concept lenses that are just ridiculously amazing sharp, but so heavy and so expensive that someone who's buying an EOS RP isn't really interested in them.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you can use your adapted lenses, but then you're using an adapter. And I'm a little sour on it. I'm getting a little tired of adapters as somebody who's used adapters with Canon glass on Sony for the last year and a half, coming up on 4 years. It's just, it works well in a lot of cases, but every once in a while you get that hiccup, and that every once in a while hiccup might be just when you're trying to get a pretty epic shot. And sometimes you can't redo those. So.
Yeah, it does. Using that FTZ adapter with the Nikon it's not exciting to me. It doesn't feel like it's like riding a bike with training wheels or something. It just doesn't feel legit. Even if the shots work. I mean, I had to use it with the 300 millimeter, but Nikon is now starting to release more and more Z mount lenses, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah, they announced we don't have that on our news list, but just a reminder, this news, all these articles that Roy nicely gathered for us, thank you, Roy, are linked right down below this video. They've announced the 24 1.8.
Correct, yeah. They have yet to make a 1.4 in the Z mount. Everything's 1.8, but I think it's still going to be, they're all going to be pretty great lenses. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think very sharp, very good quality. I think Nikon's gone in a better direction here, where they've released these cameras and then paired them with very nice, very sharp, but more reasonably priced lenses.
Yeah,
still pricey.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some pricey ones for sure.
Yeah. But, you know, it is more in line with what I think people buying those cameras would be interested in. And if you're a super pro, you probably have the more expensive lenses that you can then throw on with an adapter.
Yeah.
So I think they've done it the right way, but I think they also price those cameras a little high to start with.
Oh, I agree completely. Yeah.
And the Lume Cube panel is interesting. Let me bring this up. This is Lume Cube makes. I think it might even actually be in reach if I'm tangled over here. No, I only have the cover to it, the little rubber nipple. So they make those little teeny waterproof, very bright lights. Now they're branching out and they're making a panel much more like this. I think they'll do all right. They have a pretty good marketing campaign. I mean, that's really where it is these days. There are so many LED panels that are out there. That are available. I have this little credit card size one from some no-name brand that I bought like for 20 or 30 bucks. I love it. It's fantastic. I think I will replace it with this because then it's just one less piece of gear to be carrying around since I always do that. But that's something interesting coming from Lume Cube.
Yeah.
And then this Unreal's engine Project Spotlight uses LED walls for real-time camera effects. So I'm going to share my screen again, and then we'll go to full view of this. So this is still kind of small, but there it is. So basically, this is a screen back here made up of an LED wall. And so you can put whatever you want and animate it in the background. So no longer are you kind of limited by a green screen and projecting, but you can have actual content back there in real time to see what it's all going to look like and be able to better share for the director. The comments are interesting because they really get into how easy it is to fake so much stuff these days, and it's only getting easier and easier. And here is a very kind of like non-harmful way to use this technology, but in the future, talk about fake news, to use that term. It devolves pretty quickly in those comments. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So, but it's pretty neat the direction that all is going and the technologies that are available to us. And will be available to regular people soon.
So incredible.
There we go. I thought I was stuck in that, but now I'm not. Okay. Oh, you know what? Let's take off this infrequent news show too, and just there. Take that off. Okay. And what else did we want to talk about as we kind of work through the end here? Did you? The photographer shoots Lord of the Rings scenes on a tabletop. So
I saw something about this the other day, but I didn't read the article. Huh?
Yeah. Let me share this. And we got a nice big ad first, but let's go down below the ad. And we have this gentleman. You can see him on the left. He's an Iowa photographer, Nicholas Bush, and he is making this beautiful little diorama. And then he photographs real models and composites them in along with the sky.
That's incredible.
And it is pretty incredible. The detail in the model, I think, might be one of the most impressive parts of this.
Definitely.
Because there's nothing that screams fake to me.
God, that's incredible. I mean, it really does look like just a shot from the movie or something, you know?
Yep.
That's amazing.
And so you can see here is the size of it. So the amount of time and effort that it goes into creating these dioramas, these little models, is really, really impressive. Let's get to some other options here.
Gosh.
My only complaint is these are hobbits and their feet aren't hairy enough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's fake news, man.
I know. I know. So these are pretty cool. Not only, as I said, from kind of the standpoint of the dioramas they're making are pretty epic, but the fact that the level of compositing that is happening here, and for anybody who's worked on a little bit of sky replacement, or bringing in somebody at a different size or shape into an image, it's just pretty impressive. And he's done a really, really nice job.
That's just, I mean, like, how do you even think to start doing that is what I want to know. Like, because that's some tedious stuff. I mean, that's not just like throw it together. I mean, the amount of commitment it would take and dedication to do that. That's amazing to me.
Yeah. And let's see, he uses a Canon 5D Mark IV and a Sigma 35mm lens. Is his favorite combination. He said he's tried a lot of different combinations, but it's that gives him the most kind of realistic look. And his Instagram is linked in here as well. He's got lots more pictures on here. He doesn't just do Lord of the Rings. If you're turned off by that nerd stuff, I love it.
Me too.
He's got all kinds of fantastic images on here on his Instagram as well. So go take a look at that. Yeah. He's called Flying the Donut on Instagram. Pretty cool stuff.
Wow, man, what have I ever done?
You've taken at least one fantastic picture of zebras.
Thank you.
I'll give you that. Yeah. All right. And then some interesting news. I mentioned Canon a little bit. Their CEOs come out and said they expect a massive drop in sales by the end of 2020. And so we are in this transition zone of DSLR to mirrorless world. Talked a little bit about the 90D. I think it's a decent all-around mid-level DSLR, exactly where it should be. I think it's priced pretty nicely. But, it's kind of a bigger, heavier DSLR, and we're really transitioning to a space where something this size and weight can do the job. Now, does that mean that everybody wants to hold something smaller that maybe doesn't balance as nicely with longer lenses? No. But there are a lot of people that I hear from pretty frequently that say, I don't carry my DSLR around anymore because it's too heavy,
Yeah, and I've tried not to be too much of an evangelist to the point where it's annoying. How if you have that friend that's always like, oh my gosh, you have to see this. Oh my gosh, you have to read this. Oh my, eventually you're like, okay, enough. I'm trying not to be that way about the mirrorless thing, but ever since I just started using it, I'm just like, I just keep picking that camera up. I don't know why. It just feels like I feel like I can do better with it. And it's not to say that the DSLR is a slouch at all. It's just, I don't know. It feels like the future. And I just think I've had a lot of people lately say, what should I buy? I'm ready to get a new DSLR. I'm like, I think you should wait. If you're not ready, you should wait and get a mirrorless when either A, you can afford what's out, or you are willing to wait till the next thing comes out, which might be the better option. But just hang tight, because if you go invest a bunch of money in DSLRs right now, I just think it's going to be a couple years before you're ready to really jump ship. And I could be wrong, but it just feels like that's kind of where we're
No, I agree. And I go back and forth a little bit, because on one hand, there's the 90D, the Canon, or D90. I can't even keep it straight right now.
Yeah, 90D.
90D, thank you. That is a great camera and has a huge lens ecosystem behind it.
Yeah.
But moving forward, we are going to see less and less of those type of cameras. We're going to see less and less of those lenses developed. Is it at a point now where I should say, no, you really should just buy mirrorless? Very close. Very close.
Yeah, it may not be there. It's to each his own. But I think don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater, because it's, even though the cameras aren't perfect, I mean, Sony to me is just killing it, obviously. Even though the Canon and the Nikons aren't perfect, they're moving in the right direction. And they'll get better and better.
Yeah,
They just will.
And they're certainly right for some people, to be kind of very nice and I do personally. I bought Sony because at the time that was the best. And right now, if you're investing in a mirrorless system from nothing, then I do think Sony offers a lot.
Absolutely.
But the Nikon Z6 is just a fantastic camera. I'm really excited to see more firmware developments for on the Canon side as well, and see where these go and really see what the next generation is. Because in some ways, it's not really fair. Both Canon and Nikon are on their first generation of mirrorless. Yeah. Sony's now on its third or even fourth with the A7R4 that was released.
Yeah, correct.
Pretty fantastic camera, but also very expensive.
Sure.
Yeah. And Pam says she loves her Z6.
There we go, Pam. High five.
Yeah. Let's move right on into questions, Q&A. We've got a couple of different questions. First, from Kate, is with the texture slider in Lightroom, what is your usual starting point? So the texture slider was added earlier this year. Mm-hmm. It's kind of an alternative to the clarity slider. It's actually originally put in there to really help photographers soften skin, so they wouldn't have to go to Photoshop to soften skin on models. The lowering the texture slider is pretty smart about how it works and would soften skin a bit. But photographers found going in the other direction really smartly sharpens up features that you want to see sharpened up, both in landscape and in portraits. Yeah. Do you have, off the top of your head, do you have a number that you're working at with texture slider, David?
That's a great question, because sometimes I will pull something all the way to the right and see how ridiculous it looks full blast, and then start pulling it back and see, like, okay, where do I feel like it loses any effect, and where does it have just enough to be sort of like the sweet spot? And I find myself a lot of times with texture going somewhere between, like, I guess it's 10 and 20, like, if zero's in the middle, like it just depends. I mean, that shot of the lion, the black and white shot that we shared earlier, I think I used quite a bit, but I might have painted it into the fur a little bit. As far as like one general slider, it's a great tool to have. Just, it's like we always say with the salt and pepper analogy, just be careful how much you add to that, or add it to your photo. And then also, if you're going to then add clarity and all this other stuff, just step back and ask yourself, does that look a little too overdone? That was a long answer, sorry.
No, that's a fantastic answer. And it's funny how, we haven't worked together a ton. We haven't talked about editing together a ton, but we really seem to be on the same page. I went and looked at my bear pictures real quick while you're talking. Most of them are between 10 and 20.
Yeah. It feels like that's where you're like, okay, it's doing something, but it's not killing the photo.
Yeah. And what I will say is similar to you saying painting it in on some of the lion shots, on some of my bear shots. And Kate, I think you've seen this video. I show how I use the radial filter to throw on a little bit more texture right onto my subject, or use the brush to paint on a little bit more. But over kind of a global area, I think, somewhere around 10 to 20 is great. I certainly find that you could be a little bit more heavy-handed with it, I think, than clarity, which clarity I don't go above 15 or 20 hardly ever, but texture I might.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. All right. And Vince has a question. In his photos folder, he keeps photos, videos, and graphics in the Adobe Illustrator format. If I create a Lightroom catalog for that folder, will it mess up anything when I access the files with Illustrator or Premiere? No, it won't.
Glad you answered that, because I would not know what to tell you.
So all of the information about those files, you can leave them exactly where they are and just tell Lightroom, hey, I got this folder that I now want you to be aware of. That's called importing and using the add feature. It leaves them where they are, but it makes Lightroom aware of them. I don't think Lightroom will see the AI files. I think it'll just give you an error on those, but your photos and your videos, it can show you and keep in the catalog. But nicely, it doesn't put anything extra in that folder. It keeps all the extra information about it in the catalog itself, so it won't mess that up. It's good. Cool. And Pam wants to know what lens range should she bring to the Grand Canyon. She's on the McKay Photography Academy Southwest trip that starts in about a week. Actually a week. She currently has the wide angle, ? Does that mean you don't know what wide it is there, Pam? I think it might mean. You've got the 18-200 and the 70-200 f2.8. Bring it all, Pam. Bring it all. Here's the good news. This trip doesn't have a whole lot of mandatory hiking. There's some optional hiking. And for most of our Grand Canyon stops, the car is never too far away. So you can walk out of the car with the 1 or 2 lenses to keep your bag kind of light, but leave stuff that you don't need in your bag. I will say this, I find myself with longer focal lengths at the Grand Canyon pretty often. It is a huge, epic view. And I think telephoto lenses showcase that a little bit better. The wide angle and things just start to get lost, but there's certainly a place for those as well. So bring it all.
That's good advice.
Yeah. Are you on that trip, David? Who's on that trip?
No, you know what? I almost was on that trip a few days ago, but it turns out it's just not going to work for me to go. So.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
On something. We are on one next spring, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, we're doing something.
Okay, good. Sounds good. I think that's it. Is there anything else that I said I was going to talk about? I did see one other question that slid by. Somebody asked if the Canon D650, that's one of the slightly older Rebels, is good for shooting music videos. Certainly can work. It's got that nice cinematic dual pixel autofocus in it. It can absolutely work. I'd say get a nice prime lens or 2 so you can get some of that really good depth of field in there. The 50-1.8 STM could be useful for some of that stuff, just the kit lens as well. But really it's kind of your how you tell that story of the music video and your other lighting gear and things like that. Those are pretty important.
Sure.
But that camera is certainly capable of shooting a good quality music video. So, yeah. I think that's it. I don't have anything else to say other than to apologize again that the fact that the show is a little sporadic these days. Hope a little bit later in the fall we get back into a more regular schedule, because it is one of my favorite things to do, especially when we have some of your photos to critique, which we'll be doing more of.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great, and I appreciate you having me on like you do, because yeah, it's just fun to chit chat about this stuff and have some people chiming in. So, and I'll miss you too, Pam. Thanks for saying that. Wish I could be there.
All right. And again, thanks, David, for doing the show with us. You can find his Instagram and his YouTube channel right down below. And on that YouTube channel, he does talk about that 300 that you took. You got any more reviews planned? You post anything more to that soon?
I need to. I've been a little scattered these days. It's not worth having a channel if I'm not going to do anything, but I'll get back on it. It's just been a lot going on. So, yeah. But I will.
Very good. Very good. And just a couple quick reminders. One, if you are a Photo Enthusiast Network member, remember that it's the beginning of September, reminder of the date, which means that you've got a couple of weeks still to get in your images for the monthly competition where you can win fantastic prizes from Bay Photo. Not only is it awesome to enter to get that feedback that you're going to get on your images from professional photographers in a helpful, friendly critique way, but it's also the possibility to win literally prizes worth hundreds of dollars from Bay Photo. Fantastic prints. So that's very exciting. And of course, just join if you're not already a member. And that you can do that at the photoenthusiastnetwork.com. I put the on there, but it's not. photoenthusiastnetwork.com. And if you're building a website anytime soon, really consider Squarespace. It's the easiest to build a gorgeous, beautiful, drag and drop friendly website to display your work, to sell prints, to put an online store up. Basically, whatever you need to do on the internet, Squarespace will provide it for you. And their new marketing system and email campaign manager is awesome. It's very good. So check that out. You can save 10% off your first purchase by going to squarespace.com/photorectv. That's it. That's all I got.
Sounds good.
Thanks everybody so much for watching. If you're watching this after the fact, leave us a comment. Tell us your favorite David Carr Africa picture that you saw. Leave that right down in the comment down below. And
or your favorite Toby Alaska shot, because those are amazing.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you very much.
So
okay,
cool.
everybody. I don't know. Oh, yeah. There's an end broadcast button right here. I was going to say I don't know how to end it, but I'm going to say bye-bye, everybody. David, thanks so much.
See you later. Adios. Thank you, guys.